For the first time in Sri Lanka, carefully crafted learning environment for children aged 12 to 15 developed in collaboration with global giants in project-based learning. Call MeuLabs today for more information on 071 832 3128.
Difference in MeuLabs would, I think, be the project-based learning, which is very cool.
And compared to another class, it was way more fun and exciting.
And MeuLabs is different from other classes. We work as a team, we share thoughts, and we learn from each other.
They are great teachers. They teach us everything we need to know about everything we do in the class. I really like it.
I met a lot of friends online and had a lot of work to do as a team.
How to work with all these various apps related to coding.
Learn a lot about space and most of all making my own rover craft.
And also how to work with a team when you can't physically be together working on your project.
I would definitely recommend this to a friend of mine.
Definitely recommend MeuLabs to everyone.
I recommend MeuLabs for everyone.
Hi, I'm Kathra.
My name is Lily.
Hi, my name is Nitesh Kanratna.
My name is Pinatu.
My name is Pranav.
Come join MeuLabs and discover the world beyond you.
Hi, very good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining with us today with the MeuLabs webinar series. So today is the first webinar of MeuLabs webinar series. And the topic for today's webinar would be importance of robotics and coding for young learners. So in terms of the agenda today, we would like to discuss the future of work and education for us to get a better understanding of the role of programming and robotics in the workplace in 10, 15 years of time. And also, we will be discussing the details, the statistics of the importance of robotics and programming in 10, 15 years of time. And also, we would like to discuss a concept called project-based learning and see what kind of a value that project-based learning brings to the table in terms of enabling us to understand the concept of robotics, programming, and also to make sure that we are future ready. So towards the end of the presentation, we would also like to discuss the value that MeuLabs can also add to make sure that you and your children, your kid, is ready to take up the challenges of the future. So before moving on, I would like to say if you have any questions, if you have any clarifications to get, please feel free to share those with us, and we would love to answer all the questions that you have. So having said that, if we move on to the other slide, I think it's best before moving on for you all to give a rough overview, an introduction to MeuLabs and who we are. So I am Pasivita Charanga. I'm a graduate from the University of Colombo and a CIMA past finalist. I am the co-founder of MeuLab, and with me today I have Tulita Singh, who is a mechanical engineering graduate from MIT in the USA. He's also the co-founder of MeuLabs. And also, we have Shayan Yatagam, who is also a graduate from the University of Colombo and also the co-founder of MeuLabs. So in terms of why we want to do this kind of a webinar, I would say in a nutshell, it is to share our experiences with you. So to go back and share our experiences with you, I think the best way to say is that we've gone through the traditional education, the conventional education system in Sri Lanka. We've been to government schools, we've been to semi-government schools, we've been to private schools in Sri Lanka. And also in terms of higher education, we've been to one of the best universities in Sri Lanka and also in the world. And also going out of the traditional boundaries of so-called undergraduates, what we have done is we've gone to the world outside, we've gone to workplaces and we've started to work while we're undergraduates. And with that, we were lucky enough to work with a lot of local organizations, a lot of multinational organizations as well. And while working, what we realized was that there is a gap between the conventional education and the expectations of the world out there. And what we thought was it is high time that we start filling that gap. And the whole purpose of this forum is to make sure that we share our experiences, because with this team today in this webinar, we have experiences from diverse amount of backgrounds. Like we have engineers, we have IT professionals, we have data guys who have worked with a lot of organizations in Sri Lanka and also in the world. So we come with a lot of experience and exposure, and we would like to share it with you guys to make sure that you have some valuable information to take home at the end of this webinar. So I think the best place to start would be to understand how the future would look like. What would be what would be your workplace look like in 10, 15 years of time? So I think Shayan will be able to give you a better understanding about the future, and he will bring you into the future. And Shayan, the opportunity is for you.
Thank you, Pasil. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here with us. So to start off, I would like to start with a bit of a grim statistic, maybe. So it's said by the World Economic Forum that 65% of children entering primary school today will end up working in completely new jobs, in jobs that do not exist yet. Now, like I said, it might be a bit of a grim statistic, but if you really look at it, even when we started schooling, some of the jobs that we are working on today did not exist. I work using tools like Power BI, in programming languages like Python or R. Yes, Python might have been there, but Power BI certainly was not. Even this Facebook live stream that you're watching, Facebook wasn't in existence when we started. It was pretty recent in 2008. And if you think about the jobs that Facebook itself has created, it's in the millions. If you think about the database engineers, the UI UX experts, the security consultants which work at Facebook itself, the number is humongous. Then you take on the little digital agencies or digital media outlets that have popped up just because of Facebook and Facebook marketing. If you take the content creators that have popped up just because of social media marketing. If you take the small businesses which have popped up, which only have outlets on stuff like Instagram or Facebook, they would never have imagined, neither them or their parents would ever have imagined them working on such platforms when they started school. And the same is true for today. The students of today will be working or will see different or new job types that we don't really know, that we don't even know. So how do we prepare for this? Another statistic would be from McKinsey, where they say that by the year 2055, half of the work today will be completely automated and not manual. If we look at an even recent time range, like latter half of this decade, by approximately 2030, it says that 800 million individuals globally would be displaced by automation. Now, displaced by automation does not mean that they are unemployed. It does not mean that they'll be staying at home. It means that they'll have to search for and look and work in newer job types, in jobs that probably don't exist today. And this is where we believe education comes in, where education is key for the students of today. If we move on and look at the future of education in the latter half of this decade, what we would see is the mushrooming. Formal education, as you know, we see it today as well. But what we would see is the mushrooming of informal education or entities which provide informal credentials. Now, both of these spheres would be definitely impacted by AI or artificial intelligence. And a study done by Gartner about the higher education landscape of the latter half of this decade, like I said, 2030. If you look at the bottom block, here we see formal education or the formal entities, which would see a sustaining impact of AI, which means AI or artificial intelligence would help them do their jobs, would help them in their day-to-day studies. These entities or institutes would look similar to the current universities that we see today, like the Oxfords, the Cambridges, or the Stanfords of the world. Now, these would provide holistic development, yes, but some of these could become disrupted by technology, by new trends that suddenly pop up. And if we move on to some of the formal education spheres, which will be disrupted by AI, what we would see is highly research-based, highly personalized education. Now, these would create certain experts, subject matter experts or knowledge creators, but would come at the cost of being very expensive. And this might not be accessible to most of the population, probably not to countries, not to developing countries. And at the same time, we see the informal education sphere. Now, the informal education sphere would also be impacted by AI. If you look at the top right, what we would see is AI disrupting some of the entities which provide informal education, but these would most likely be non-accredited just-in-time education. Some of the online tutories that we see today, these educations or these entities would provide education which is very career focused and at low cost, but it would not be accredited. And I guess the biggest con would be that these would be self-paced or it would be highly geared towards self-starters. You would have to do it at your own pace. There's no one behind you to pick and prod and say, you got to do this exam by now. And at the same time, we would see this informal education sphere having a lasting or sustaining impact with AI. This is where we would see a lot of employer-led or non-traditional education, which comes at a low cost, and it will be affordable for students. But this comes with the cost of being lesser credible, or it won't be valid for a long time. So this is kind of like what the education sphere of the latter half of the decade would look like. If we move on and talk about the skills that we would need in the future, here's a list of top 10 skills drawn up by the World Economic Forum, where they say these are the skills of the 2025s, 2030s, and the near future. If we look at these one by one, all of these talks about, or most of these talk about stuff like innovation, thinking, analytical thinking, creative thinking, complex problem solving. It's all about the mind worker. And in most points, like I said, it's about how you can use your mind, or use the knowledge that you've learned, use the skills that you have learned, and adapt to new situations, because that is going to be key. You are not seeing the job types that will be available right now, so you need to be able to go to those jobs at that time, let's say in 10 years from now, and perform the job at a proper level. And for that, you need to be able to use your thinking faculties. And that, we believe, is key. The key is students need to learn how to learn. How am I supposed to go to my job, to a new job, a new environment 10 years from now? How am I supposed to learn what I'm supposed to do at that time and do that effectively? And this, we believe, is what we should be focusing right now in terms of education. We should be focusing on getting students to think, to get their mental faculties working fine, to get them, to teach them skills of learning how to learn. And this is where we believe robotics and programming play a huge role. Now, robotics and programming are not some of your typical day-to-day subjects which you learn at school. Most students have seen, yes, remote control cars. They've seen online platforms and they want to learn about it. But it's not something which is freely, easily available. But we believe it should be. We believe robotics and programming and subjects of that caliber put students into places that they have not seen before. These kind of subjects get the students' mental faculties working, and that is key. Like we said, it's not robotics or programming which is key. It's learning about robotics or programming, so that 10 years from now, when I need to learn, or the student needs to learn something completely new, he would know how he learned robotics when he knew nothing about it. In that same way, he could learn the next trend, the next technology, the next new thing, which he knows nothing at all at the moment. If you talk about robotics and programming, robotics, as we know, is a branch of technology which deals with design, construction of machines, or specifically application of machines. At the moment, we see certain mobile robotics, we see self-driving cars like the Teslas of the world, we see industrial robotics, we see drones, soft-bodied robotics, humanoid robotics with entities like Boston Dynamics. These are some of the key, or these are some of the innovative trends that we see in robotics. What we want to do is to get our children thinking about stuff like Boston Dynamics. How can I build a robot which can walk? I have seen remote control cars all my life, but we want to get students to think about things that they've not seen. Robots which can walk, for example, robots which can crawl, robots which can fly. Think about things, get their mental faculties working so that they can learn how to learn new things. And the same is such with programming or coding. Coding is simply the implementation of logic. So you need to be able to go through or grasp the logic with your head so that you can go and program it or code it in your computer. And some of the areas that we see computing now are software engineering, databases, cybersecurity is coming up, and some of the new trends like quantum computing, which is still in research phase, or blockchain, which might be a controversial topic, but these are some of the new trends that are working on, that our students will be working on in the future. So what we want to do as MeuLabs is to get students thinking and working on new things. We want to show them things out there in the world which no one else has showed them. We want them to think in completely new ways. We want to get them to learn how to learn. Because when they go out into the world, their key is the fact that they need to add value to wherever they go. And they will be going into new areas, new environments, new jobs. How are they supposed to learn about that new thing. That's what we want to bring to the students. Tulit, let me hand over to you.
In the face of uncertainty is a key challenge. Students, your children in the future will have to deal with when they become adults, when they become professionals, when they go out into the industry and work by themselves. So one takeaway that we can take from what Shine said is that it is going to be uncertain. And with that uncertainty, the entire world's education system will need to change in order to cope with this. And what will that education system look like? What will the future's education system look like? Well, according to the World Economic Forum, the future of education would be very different to what we sort of experience, especially in countries like Sri Lanka, where we have a teacher who is in front of a whiteboard and has students around them teaching and talking and talking. It'll be replaced by a different method where we have inquiry, problem-based and project-based learning, using tools that we call makerspaces or open studio-like creative workshops. So what that essentially means is that the way students learn, the way the education system functions will change drastically, and it will go towards something we call project-based learning or problem-based learning. Well, what really is project-based learning and what really is problem-based learning? Well, some of you might think project-based learning might be doing a project, but there's a difference between doing a project and project-based learning. And project-based learning as an area or a body of knowledge is still very much under the research space, and a lot of work is being done. So let me give you a small example. Genders, spheres, and so on. And at the end of the class, the teacher might tell the students, okay, now you have a project. Your project is to go home and using cardboard or whatever material, foam or whatever material that you have at home, make these shapes and bring it to class. That is your project. That is projects, that's dessert, that sort of project as a dessert to the typical education system, which comes at the very end. At the very end. So but what project-based learning really is different. It's where the teacher doesn't do a lesson on geometry. It's where the teacher starts off and says, hey, I want you to, as a group, go out and make a model of a house. Okay, the students will get together and look at a house and say, okay, what shapes are actually in a house? They'll discover that the house has spheres, it has pyramids, it has cubes, cuboids, all of these different shapes, and they'll learn about making those shapes. And while learning, they'll learn about the shapes, their different properties. So that's the difference between project-based learning and all doing a project. So a project-based learning starts off with a challenging problem, and which is open-ended, and it has sustained inquiry. The students has to really think about the problem and understand what is actually required of them and come up with solutions. It needs to come in the place of authenticity. Teachers are never going to tell the students what to do in project-based learning. The students will have to figure it out by themselves. And students' voice is very important. That's where a teacher sits in the middle and the students are surrounded by them does not work. It's the students are the center of learning now. And it also has reflections. So at the end of the projects, all students come together, show each of their houses, and everyone criticizes or talks about what their houses are made of and maybe how they can improve it. And that in itself is an iterative process. You revise your house, maybe make it better. And at the end of the day, you have a public product. That's what's unique about project-based learning. And when implementing project-based learning in the real world, there are different methods. There are different tools that is required. It needs to have a proper design plan. You need to align with proper standards. We need to build a culture of learning, innovation, creative thinking, openness. We need to manage students' activities effectively. And instead of just telling the students what to do, we need to scaffold their learning, which is provide them the resources and they have to by themselves learn. We need to base assets, students' methods of learning. We need to have good teachers, good mentors who are coaches and who tries to nurture students. And these are different ways, different things we need to have in project-based learning. So it's a very, very vast area. And the reason why we are speaking about project-based learning in such high regard, especially in the context of today's webinar, which is about the importance of teaching robotics and programming to your kid, is because of this. If you look at this, what these are the 10 skills that my colleague Cheyenne, on the left-hand side, what you see are the 10 skills my colleague Cheyenne presented to you at the beginning of what the skills are actually, what skills are actually required by 2025. And what you have on the right side are the benefits of project-based learning. If you really closely look at it, you will see that there is a lot of intersection between what is actually required in the future and the benefits of project-based learning, which is why we as an organization, as individuals, really believe in this concept of project-based learning and want to promote it as much as we can. But there's a key caveat here, which is that if you really notice, there are certain areas that it doesn't intersect.
Tulit, just to interrupt you, sorry to interrupt you. Just if you go to the other slide, I think that will be very, very clear of the sort of skills that we are talking about. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I think I am sharing that slide.
Yes. Yes. All right. So here we go.
Can you see my next slide now?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You can get it.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So.
Yeah.
Is it better now? Okay, great. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of overlap between what is presented or what is required by the 25 what skills are required by 2025 and what we can achieve with project-based learning, as I mentioned, except for some areas, especially in the areas of technology, where project-based learning as a concept can be applied to basically anything. It could be applied to making your own theater production. It could be applied to making your own art or whatever you want. But the skills that are required in the future has a strong emphasis on technology. That is where our secret sauce really comes into play. What we try to do is we want to integrate project-based learning and make it relevant. The way we do it is we integrate current technology trends, such as robotics and programming, into project-based learning so that we develop holistic, future-ready skills. So that essentially, in a nutshell, is what we try to achieve and what we try to strive towards as an organization. And I think that is one of the best ways for us to prepare our students for the requirements of the future. And I think, so you might be, yeah. So extremely sorry everyone about the technical difficulties, but I will let, and in order to explain to you a bit more in detail, what we do here at MeuLabs and what is unique about our organization, I want to hand it over to Pasidu, who will explain to you a bit more about what makes MeuLabs unique and how MeuLabs allows your student to best learn concepts like robotics programming, but not just that, prepare your student for the future of their career or whatever they want to achieve.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tulit. So one of the most frequently asked questions about MeuLabs is a lot of parents ask from us, like, whether this is a class, whether this is a course, whether this is a certificate or a diploma or something like that. So I think we have the answer here. I think from the comment section, I think we saw a few individuals asking about our course and the structure and whether this is a certificate or the questions like that. So I think this will answer all those questions, because we would say MeuLabs is an education ecosystem. So what we do is we take a small kid, step by step, we take him through a journey to find his talents, his interest, and make him an expert in his particular field of interest. And that is what we do at MeuLabs. So we have different levels of programs which enable us to make a student future ready. So we start from our basic program, Knowledge Explorers, which is the basic, the foundation level that we have. So we cover various different skills there. We cover robotics, we cover coding, software engineering, we cover things like product designing, 3D designing, and also, most importantly, we cover different modules such as data-driven decision making. So what we wanted to create is an open ecosystem, open learning environment where students are taking decisions and where students are free to think. And that is the environment that we have at MeuLabs. So after the basic programs, I think within this MeuLabs ecosystem, students are free to choose the learning path that they would like to be an expert in. It can be something like analytics, where you study about computer programming, computer science, data analytics, AI, and things like that. Or it can be something like product designing, where you study hands-on making, robotics, electronic and electrical engineering, manufacturing engineering, and things like that. And also, it can be something like creative expressions, where you study about drama, literature, video production, and the creative skills of you will be developed. So what we encourage students is to experience all of these learning paths. So eventually you will become a better person, a rounded individual. And also, if you follow these learning paths, you will also have different, we would say, different experts courses also. So it can be software engineering, it can be data science and AI, robotics, it can be product designing, manufacturing, electronic media, arts. So this is a holistic ecosystem that we provide, that we like to provide to our students, to make sure that they are future ready, and to make sure that we target a holistic set of skills to make sure that they are ready to take up the challenges in the future. And that is what we do at MeuLabs. And also, one of the major things that we do at MeuLabs is that we help you to build your own personal portfolio. That can be the portfolio that you want to build to come up with your own innovation, or that can be the product that you want to make sure that you get a good admission, that you secure admission to a very good university, or that can be the personal pet project that you like to do. So in the personal portfolio stage, what we like to do is to guide students individually to make sure that they can come up with a industry level project. And of course, throughout different levels, we'll be working with multiple projects. But in this personal portfolio, what we are working on is building up a unique product or a project that you can go out to the market and present, saying, look here, I did this amazing thing. And that is what we wanted to achieve. And of course, we are more than happy to connect our students with a lot of academic partners that we have. So through our partners such as AIA, we have exposure to one of the few major institutes, universities in the world, and also in Sri Lanka. And also, we'll be, if a particular student have some sort of innovative ideas, what we'll be doing is we'll be connecting up with them with different investors. And also, if you want to secure an employment, what we'll be doing is we'll be connecting you with our organizational partners. So, as I mentioned, MeuLabs is providing you the end-to-end ecosystem, not only to teach you just coding, just robotics, or one particular subject, but to build sort of holistic skills within you. So Tulit, if we can go to the other slide, I think we'll be able to explain why MeuLabs is, why we think MeuLabs is the best place to gather all this knowledge. So I think the first and the most important thing would be, as we mentioned, that MeuLabs is Sri Lanka's first and only dedicated project-based learning program. We made this program, is not just a random thought that we had in mind. This program was made after 2 years of research. So we've been working with different local and global organizations to make sure that we come up with the right content. And also we have conducted pilot runs with the kids from different schools in Sri Lanka to make sure that this program delivered the expected results. And after a few years of experiments only, we are reaching out to general public with this program content. So, and also the learning environment that we have in MeuLabs is very different. So it's not an environment where we explain something and the kids listen and they memorize and they face an examination. No, it is not the environment that we have in MeuLabs. It's kind of an inversion where students come up with their own issues, they come up with their own experiments. Through trial and error, they learn different things, and students are the ones who lead the conversation. So that is the specialty in MeuLabs. So it is a great environment for students to find their passion, to develop and refine their passion. And also, as I mentioned earlier, all the people, all the guiders, all the mentors that you will engage with in MeuLabs are professionals. So we have full-time engineers and professionals guiding these kids. So if you want career mentorship, if you want some advices on your employment, on finding your interest, if you need guidance on how to secure admission to a very good university, we are there to help you, because we have gone through that process. And that is the specialty of MeuLabs. And I would say, above all, it is a lifelong impact for your kid. And we will make sure this lifelong impact, this experience is fun and engaging. So I think that is all that we have to cover. We focused on covering for today's discussion. And also, as we can see, there are different concerns, different questions raised by our audience. I think, Tulit, it's time for us to go through the comments of our audience and maybe give and elaborate more on those areas. Yeah? I think, Tulit, you're on mute.
Okay, I think it should be better now.
Yes.
Yes. So I think now they posted a question, which is how exactly is this different and unique from an ordinary robotics class, because we hear and see many advertisements for classes of that sort. So that's a very good question now there. I think what we try to emphasize in MeuLabs is that even in this webinar today as well, we talked about our secret sauce, which is that we try to integrate technology education with project-based learning. So what that allows students to do is that students will not just learn robotics, it's being able to pick up new technologies, because what we see from the evidence is that, robotics and programming might not be the thing that you'll be working on in 10 or 15 years time. It will be something entirely different. So what you really need to do is not just learn robotics, but be able to grasp new concepts very quickly, apply them and solve real world problems. At the same time, think critically, think outside the box, think creatively, and more importantly, working with others in a team environment, and actually driving change and impact through collaboration. And these are all very important things. And I think the top skills that we mentioned earlier really reflect that requirement from the industry, from the future world. And what we try to do with MeuLabs is exactly that. We try to, through project-based learning and technology integration, provide our students the best footing, the best position to meet the demands of the future. And I think now we have another question from Davinda Nisanka, which is, when will the next class start? So if you're interested in joining MeuLabs, we have a new intake which is opening up in July as well. More information can be found on our website and also on Facebook as well. And you can enroll your children to that class. So unfortunately, we have a June intake is already closed and filled. So you can enroll your child to a July intake, but we will have continuous enrollment, even especially towards the latter stage of the year for the other stages of MeuLabs, of the MeuLabs ecosystem, which we sort of described to you. And Monster Gaming is asking us, is there 3D printing? That's a good question as well. So I think from the MeuLabs basic course, you'll also already get exposure to things like 3D designing. And if you visit our social media channels, you'll see some of the 3D designs our students made. And towards the other classes that we provide through MeuLabs, especially the product design track, and also later on the manufacturing track, you will really learn about different manufacturing techniques. So something like 3D printing goes into an area called rapid prototyping. So not just you learn not just about 3D printing, which is an area of rapid prototyping, you learn about other ways of rapid prototyping, and also different methods you use throughout the manufacturing process. So yes, obviously you will definitely learn about 3D printing and maybe even make your own 3D printed toys as you go along. Let me just see if we have any other questions. And of course, we provide a certificate at the end of the course for our students as well. And yep, so I think that is pretty much some of the questions that everyone asked. So I think it was a very enjoyable session. I think we had a lot of interaction with our community today as well. Really appreciate the support you have given. And thank you so much for attending and participating in our webinar. We really appreciate the support and that you are giving. So I think we look forward to having a webinar like this once a month. So stay tuned. We'll give that information as we go along, where we explore new topics in education and also technology with you. So I think
and also because we have some other comments as well. I think is before we wrap up. I think it's best to answer them as well. We just got some few comments from our audience.
Yes. So some questions around using Arduino to make projects. Yes, absolutely. Even with our MeuLabs basic program, you learn about the Arduino platform and do a lot of projects with that. And you will also learn about different areas of microcontrollers and more advanced methods that could be used for robotics and IoT. And also we have some questions about the age limit. So there are a lot of questions coming in asking about can I enroll my son who is in grade 7? Absolutely. If you're in grade 7, you are at a perfect position to start our course. MeuLabs Knowledge Explorers is typically for students for around students who are around 9 years of age. So if you're 9 years or above, you can definitely suited to start the Knowledge Explorers. But the other thing is, if you already exposed some of these concepts, if you've already done projects on robotics, you can move on to some of the later stages of MeuLabs in the ecosystem and work on more exciting projects. And I think there's another question around will we design rockets? So I think that question might be off of some of the projects that we are doing right now. So one of the projects our students is doing is 3D designing rockets, not designing rockets in real life. But what we want to do is, towards the latter stages, give the students the freedom to work on projects that they are passionate about. So maybe let's say that you want to build a robot. Absolutely, we will position you based off of your own experience, understanding. We'll position you in the correct track where you can actually go to that place where if you want, you can build a rocket. And when will we get the tools? So I think that's Narmila Alif who's asking when will we get our tools. So I think that's also a good question that we had. So I think because of the pandemic situation, we need to be very careful as to how we conduct ourselves during these time periods. So we are not conducting physical sessions as of now, but as soon as COVID restrictions end and also the atmosphere of the society allows us to conduct physical sessions, we will have physical classrooms. But for our MeuLabs online classes, you will get a package delivered to your doorstep. So that package will contain all the physical material that you need to work on your project. Yes, and I think Dilrukshi, Samranayaka want to know a little bit more about course fees. So we will send you a direct message regarding the course fees. But you can also find more information about the course details in our Facebook page as well.
difference in MeuLabs would, I think, be the project-based learning, which is very, very cool.
And compared to another class, it was way more fun and exciting.
And MeuLabs is different from other classes. We work as a team, we share thoughts, and we learn from each other.
They are great teachers. They teach us everything we need to know about everything we do in the class. I really like it.
I met a lot of friends online and had a lot of work to do as a team.
How to work with all these various apps related to coding,
Learn a lot about space and most of all making my own rover craft.
and also how to work with a team when you can't physically be together working on your project.
I would definitely recommend this to a friend of mine.
Definitely recommend MeuLabs to everyone.
I recommend MeuLabs for everyone.
Hi, I'm Kathra.
My name is Lily.
Hi, my name is Nitesh Kanratna.
My name is Pinatu.
My name is Pranav.
Come join MeuLabs and discover the world beyond you.
Yep. So I think
So
that
we
was-
have a few more questions as well. Okay, one interesting question that we got was like, can I be a hacker? I think Shayan would be the best person to answer that.
Man, tough one. Absolutely. TG Rupasinghe, I'm not sure. Absolutely, you can be a hacker. There's actually a line of jobs at the market currently called ethical hacking, where you try to hack certain websites or applications or government institutes, various different entities, to see like if you can hack it, that means someone else can hack as well. So that's called ethical hacking. And while we go through the software path and some of the specializations, cyber security is one thing that we will focus on, and in that we will be walking through ethical hacking and how we can check for security threats. We hope you use it for the best, but yeah, hacking is one thing, or ethical hacking is one thing that we have in our arsenal of sort of programs. Dilupi is asking, I'm in grade 6, can I join? Absolutely, Dilupi. Let me clarify about the age group again. So the Knowledge Explorer session is the only where we talk about an age group. So Knowledge Explorers, we have two types of age groups: students from ages 9 to 13 and students from ages 14 to 16. Now, if you're 8 years old or a bit younger than that, you still can do it, but we will have a small evaluation to see whether the child could grasp the contents that we have. But if you're 9 or above, you can definitely join the program. At the next levels, we do not have an age restriction. As long as you can grasp the theory or the problems or the projects that we are talking about, you can absolutely join it. So for the next levels, for analytics and stuff like that, for the levels like that, we have an assessment, an initial assessment where we grade the student, and based on that assessment, we will enroll them. So just that one on the age group. Monster Gaming is asking whether we have Arduino. Absolutely. Absolutely, Monster Gaming. We have Arduino, like Tulit mentioned. And we also have some of the other microcontrollers, sorry, slip of tongue, which are more advanced than Arduinos. Stuff like ESP32s or Raspberry Pi, or even maybe building your own computer, building your own microchip. We might even be doing those. I believe there's another question from Farouk about, are we going to learn about circuit component names and what they do? Okay, interesting question. Absolutely. So we will be learning about circuit components. We will be learning about how we can use these circuit components at the Knowledge Explorer session. So we won't be going inside into the detail of how to make a circuit component. For example, if you take an Arduino board, we won't be talking about how we can build an Arduino board. We won't be talking about how we can sort of build a resistor or transistor or stuff that goes inside Arduino boards. But we will be talking about how we can use the Arduino, because our whole thought process behind this is about project-based learning. You need to be able to, when you get this Arduino or whatever other chip that you will find 10 years from now, you need to be able to take it and use it. You need to be able to learn how can I get this new component, this Arduino, this microcontroller, whatever new component that I have, how can I get it and how can I start using this? That's what we focus on here. Oh, interesting question, Monster Gaming. Once again, are we going to be making Ryzen computers? Well, after you follow the program, maybe you can build your own Ryzen computer. Yeah, that's something we could be doing. Maybe it will come at the personal project or the personal portfolio level, though, not at the basic levels, for sure. But yeah, interesting questions, Monster Gaming.
So I think we have covered almost all the questions that we got. So if you have any other concerns or clarifications to get, I think you all can always reach out to us through our Facebook page, and you can always call us through 071-8323-128, and we'll be more than happy to help you to understand the MeuLabs ecosystem, our program curriculum, and the things that we do, and also feel free to reach out to us at any given time. So
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much for the interest that you've shown. Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us. Good evening.
And if you can, please follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and also Twitter. And also you can follow us on YouTube as well. And keep up with the MeuLabs ecosystem, and we will have more amazing things to come in the future.
For the first time in Sri Lanka, carefully crafted learning environment for children aged 12 to 15, developed in collaboration with global giants in project-based learning. Call MeuLabs today for more information on 071 832 3128.